7 weeks after it was commissioned, an RNZ's independent panel review into its own editorial standards has been made public, with considerably less coverage than the story which sparked it. The report's 53 pages long and goes into a lot of detail about the inappropriate editing of international wire stories on the war in Ukraine, to give them a more pro-Russia angle. Now, the panel doesn't blame the one reporter responsible for 49 such edits, nor does it blame the internal processes and systems in place at RNZ. It blames both. Though in the first instance, the panel gave the journalist quite a bit of leeway. It ruled he and he alone was responsible for the edits, but also accepted that he, quote, genuinely believed he was acting appropriately to provide balance and accuracy, and was not motivated by any desire to introduce misinformation, disinformation, or propaganda. And when interviewed by RNZ's own Lisa Owen, the chairman of RNZ showed perhaps a surprising amount of sympathy.
I have empathy for the journalist and his situation. He felt that he was doing the right thing. He'd been doing it for a long period of time. The report clearly identifies he didn't receive the required level of training, support and oversight. So I think there's some significant questions that we as an organisation do need to be asking ourselves.
And indeed, the report raised plenty of questions. It identified gaps in the supervision and the training of a, quote, busy, poorly resourced digital news team. That training and editorial standards across RNZ lacked consistency, that staff hadn't even engaged with them. And specifically, staff were not even aware of the terms of the contracts with the international news agencies. It also found the overall organisational structure at RNZ, which has been in place for 7 years, was not fit for purpose. Right now, the news and content at RNZ are separated out like this. Note how the digital news team falls under content. Now, the recommended change is for restructuring, so the digital news team would work alongside the general news team, that is, the radio and broadcast side of things. Frankly, it's incredible that in 2023, 2 news divisions from the same organisation were operating like this. RNZ had identified it as an issue, but this report means the change has to be urgent. Further down, I was interested, not surprisingly, in the panel's views on balance. Section 59 dealt specifically with the war, and said it's not inappropriate to include claims and contested assertions from either side, nor was it inappropriate to refer accurately to the views and perspectives of Russia. But what was it the boss of RNZ called it at the time the story broke?
It's so disappointing that this pro-Kremlin garbage has ended up in our stories. It's inexcusable.
Interestingly, the report said the way the journalists' errors were framed at the time by RNZ's leadership only contributed to public alarm and reputational damage, which was not helpful in maintaining public trust. And finally, Section 235, which looked at a previous assessment of RNZ, which was done for the failed merger with TVNZ. It said RNZ had not provided detailed guidance on the nature of journalistic balance and how to achieve it. It said the notion was there, but that the importance of that balance being subject to the weight of evidence and other factors was absent or being downplayed. And among the suggested ways in which appropriate balance could be achieved, well, there was determining how representative or widely held key views are, and also having open-mindedness in considering all views. In a story where there's become a generally accepted good guy and a generally accepted bad guy, there can be a feeling that anything to do with the bad guy is not worthy of our attention. But you've got to have both sides. People can't be afraid of seeing and hearing those other perspectives, and newsrooms can't be afraid of publishing them. So to the prominent New Zealand journalist who commented on that VIDITORIAL at the time, saying how my analysis was taking the RNZ Russia story into the Twilight Zone, well, all I can say is, welcome.